Hey, everybody. Well, in our last segment, we talked about Saturn in the first house, second house, third house, and fourth house. Now we're going to do Saturn in the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth houses. Very, very interesting. Have you noticed how different each house is? Same planet, different areas of life. So fascinating. Again, Saturn represents traditionally the should and ought to authority figures in our lives. These are the ancestors who said you should do this, you ought to do this, you have to do this in order to keep the bloodline going, the heritage going. And traditional astrology paints Saturn as the bad guy, dealing with restriction and fear. Oh, that's nice. To get saddled with something like that, I've come to see it very differently. Saturn represents responsibility, and my definition of responsibility is respond to your ability. As a leader, Saturn is the leader. In whatever area, whatever house Saturn is in your birth chart. It's that simple. If you don't look at it that way, you will feel restricted and you will feel fear. And that's a terrible thing to have to go through. You want to talk about getting sick? That'll do it to you. So let's talk about responding to your ability as a leader. In the fifth house, well, Saturn in the fifth house says you should have children. You ought to have kids. You need to have kids. You need to continue the bloodline. Well, maybe so. I don't know. However, my definition of Saturn is it's time for you to respond to your ability as a leader with children. And that's quite different. Now, little catch-22 here. Saturn represents the should and ought to authority figures from the past. You may have met them in this lifetime through your grandparents, but it's the whole lineage. And if you get this, I think this is one woman's opinion, you can clean it up with the whole bloodline. And here's the deal. Saturn in the fifth house says that child, the fifth house child, is going to act like an authority figure, may even be the incarnation of an ancient relative. And that child acts like the boss, the parent. So you have to remind that kid, hey, I'm the one in charge. Remember? So what you want to do is respond to your ability as a leader with children. You also want to respond to your talents and abilities to create, whether it's children, whether it's art, whether it's fun, it doesn't matter, to express your creativity seriously. At Saturn, seriously. Do it. As a leader, set the tone. Now remember, your first child is going to act like the boss because Saturn represents the should and ought to relatives. And this kid might have been an ancient relative. You just got to say, honey, I'm in charge this time. And give the child the information that they can respond to their ability as a leader. Saturn in the sixth house. Respond to your ability as a leader at work. No matter what you do, take responsibility for the job. We have all met people at work who do not take responsibility for their job. They simply won't. And it falls to others then to pick up the pieces that they have left behind. This can be a problem. It also indicates a Saturn in the 6th house that you have the talent and ability to be the leader. It's natural for you. And don't be afraid of it, because when you take responsibility for it, it comes easily. Saturn in the 7th house. This is very interesting. Respond to your ability as a leader in all of your relationships. However, the catch-22 is that all of your relationships involve people who think they're the boss, who think they're the leader, who might make you feel restricted because they may feel that they know it all. That's just what's so. Now, the catch-22, you are looking for someone like that in a partnership, whether it's personal or business. Somebody who is strong and maybe gives you a certain amount of resistance so that you can respond to your ability as a leader. I hope this is making sense to you, because it's a multifaceted catch-22, give and take. You're looking for somebody. You might like dating older people. You might be looking for somebody with an old head on young shoulders who shows you by their example that they are in charge. The problem can be that there are times that that person makes you feel restricted. Oh, and unless I haven't mentioned this, the person that you find could very easily be the reincarnation of one of those authority figures. And Saturn in the 8th house. This is really interesting. Saturn in the 8th house can manifest as fear and restriction of the psychic realm, of the unknown, but it's also the lifetime in which you are encouraged to respond to your ability in the metaphysical sphere, in the spiritual sphere, in the psychic realm. You can help other people create money because Saturn is tangibility. And your tendency from past lives to be an authority, an authoritarian, restrictive, you will look at that. You will see it. Perhaps you abused power in a past life. You can transform that in this one just by responding to your ability as a true leader who takes your own responsibility to express your talents and transform your life and other people's lives. Don't you just love this? Next time, 9th house, 10th house, 11th house, 12th house. Join me. It will be enlightening.